It's episode 302 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. Oh, that's me doing the...
You're about to solar flare the chat?
Yeah, Taiyo-ken. I was trying to remember the Japanese word for it, yeah. Which is so weird that they did Taiyo-ken and later did Kaio-ken. Like, I don't know. Do you
need a lot of mileage out of Ken.
You guys ever think about that? Do you guys ever think about that? Of course you don't think about that. But this is The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. And the guy who's giving you the old solar flare is me, Brian Barnett, the host of the show, the guy who created it many years ago. I didn't mean for that to rhyme.
Well, I am level 1 intellect dumbass Kris Cornelius, aka Delphine.
And I am the man still too stubborn to draw my own maps in Wizardry. Lucas White.
Ooh.
Nice.
That is a risky endeavor.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. What do you think graph paper was invented for? It wasn't for math. It wasn't for geometry. It wasn't for engineering. It was for that.
Definitely Wizardry.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Wizardry, Dungeon RPGs. Hell, I still have a drawing of the friggin' Modron Cube map from Planescape Torment in my notebook. So, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Anyways, this week we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Where do we want to start? We've seen what we've got. Is there anything that grabs either of you two gentlemen that you want to start with?
I am down for whatever, man.
Cool.
Well, I got a couple of quick talking points before I launch into the major things, because I picked up a couple of games on Switch that were relatively cheap, small things just to dabble in. One being Void Terrarium 2, brought to my attention by our very own Lucas White.
Game of the Year episode, which you should definitely go and check out.
You absolutely should go back and listen. Right, it's great. We went at it for a long time. There was many laughs. What'd you do? What'd you break?
We went at it for a long time.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Repeatedly. In every possible direction imaginable. I'll just keep this going. I'll keep it going. You've drawn attention to it now.
In my entire... what did I say before my entire
The entire asshole, yeah. The only reason I brought that up is because for whatever reason, I don't even remember the context for it, but I said this to my friends late at night last night while we were chatting and playing Warframe. And so it's just in my mind now because we all had a laugh at that. So I did it here, and here it is. So
yeah.
When the Australianisms come out, although that's more Brit than anything, but whatever. Point is, I've been playing Void Terrarium 2. I'm only a little bit into it. It is good. It is very much like the first in that mystery dungeon with slighter base management, effectively, where you take care of your little Tamagotchi girl, effectively, build up your environments to both empower you and make sure she's all taken care of. It's good. I'm still early days, and I'm curious to see how the plot goes and how the ending is going to completely ruin me like it did Lucas. So, yeah.
So still reeling from that. How far exactly in are you? Have you started the weird alternate dimension stuff?
Well, that kicks off like almost immediately, but I'm at the point where it's like we figured out, okay, these distortions are happening from these robots, go hunt them down. There was a brief tangent aside where I had to, fix the fucking limbs falling off the girl, but other than that.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, just casually. Yeah, started off with her arm fell off, and then a bit later, this time it's an arm and a leg. This move was very expensive, apparently.
It's so funny, too, because you're this little robot guy, and you have to get the vaccine put together. And then you have to go and, individually put her arms and legs back on and inject them.
It's a whole ordeal. It's wild. But, it's still a charming little game, and I'm very curious to see how it's just going to, break me completely. So that was one of the games I've been playing on Switch, and the other one was not exactly a recommendation from you, Brian, but I saw you playing this one time. I'm like, that's cool. And then I saw it on Switch. I'm like, yeah, I'll pick that up. That would be 20 Minutes Till Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a free giveaway on Epic Games a while back, and I played it for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, we were hanging out prior to the show, and you were streaming it. I'm just like, oh, I dig the art style on that. But to inform people, it is very Vampire Survivors-esque. I don't know. What are we calling that genre now? Like, it's either Survivors games or Bullet Heaven. Bullet Heaven is a much cooler name. But yeah. So it's a Bullet Heaven name. Yeah, because it's the opposite of a bullet hell. You are the bullet hell. So
okay.
Bullet Heaven.
That makes sense.
It's very clever. I like that. But yeah, so it's a Bullet Heaven game with a really, really cool art style, doing the whole Sin City aesthetic of, very grayscale with the occasional red. Has a few little systems going on, not as varied in content as something like Vampire Survivors or whatever, but it's sticks to its guns, and the runs last 20 minutes. It's very solid. It's got plenty of plenty of unlockables, little things like that, and it's a good solid time. So I picked it up for like $7 Australian, so solid and serving me well for just when it's like I can't be bothered to focus on clearing my Trails backlog or anything. So I'll just chip away at this.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the filler game. So how about you, gentlemen? What's been on your docket this week?
Well, I've been getting into a couple of games. One of the ones that I was getting into that I was sent a key for a while ago, and I've covered these games before on the show, but it's been a while. And that is Reigns 3 Kingdoms.
All right.
Have either of you played any of the Reigns games?
I am familiar with them, but I have not played them. These are like the decision-based card game kind of things, almost.
Yeah. Here,
it's like RTS mixed with Tinder, right?
Basically.
That's actually that's a great way to describe it. But basically,
that's really good.
Yeah, that's really good. So like this is the game. So like I'm holding this up. There's a card in the middle of the screen. I can either go left and make a decision or go right and make a different decision. And based on what decisions I make, they will affect one of the 4 gauges at the top of the screen. Those being supplies, like social cachet, militarism, and then like I guess like religious fervor, I guess would be the 4th one.
Zeal.
And yeah, the idea being that if any of those 1 gauges or any of those 4 gauges tops out or bottoms out, you die. They'll like you've got too many resources and people are killing you to steal them, or you went broke and so the people rose up, revolted, and killed you, or whatever. And then every time you die, you inhabit like a relative or descendant of that person that you had died as. And you kind of continue on. And there's like a meta game. It's almost a roguelite because there are some elements of the story that do continue on. But every time you start over, the gauges reset. And you have to largely start over for some of the things that you're doing. But as you might be able to tell, because of the 3 Kingdoms naming convention, this is about this is set in China, and it's it's set in that period, around like the 190s.
Warring Kingdoms,
yeah,
etc. And
so there are, I believe, the 13 provinces or whatever, and I
want to say yes.
You go around and you have a lot of little bullet points that you'll get. Like after you die, it will like check boxes of like little mini goals that you may have had and you didn't know about. So it's like one for me is like somebody asked me, "Hey, do you want to go see a cockfight?" And you one of your option is either to say, "Oh, that's revolting," or "Yeah, count me in." And I always said that's gross. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to see animals fighting. And then I went, and it's 2 children who are forced to stand on one knee and go at the other person and like try to knock them over. And that's all it is. So it's like pretty innocent. So I went, and then once you go there, you're given the option to bet on either the little girl or the little boy. I bet on the person who won. And so then when I died the next time, a little box came up that said, one betting on a cockfight. And it's like, that's just one little thing that's like one little goal that I completed. And then for the next one, like after you die, after it shows you the checked boxes, it brings up 3 more. And it's like, gain Mr. Mirror's trust, become a king or a queen, and then something else,
So little vignettes to chase towards in between the
to give you
runs.
ideas of things that you can do, that you can try on your next kind of a thing. Now, I've played several. I've played Reigns, Kings and Queens, and I've played, I want to say like 1 or 2 other games in the Reigns series. This is the first one I know that has like a meta story or a framing device, which I've never seen before in the series. But the game, it's either the game starts or really minor structural spoilers. The first time you die, which happens real fast, you die, and then there's a red-haired woman in an office with a headset on who's like, oh, interesting, you died already. Okay, we're going to send you back into the machine. Don't worry about it.
So they're abstergoing that shit. Interesting.
Yeah. And now I'm like, wait a second. And as the game goes on, I've come to realize that there's a lot of different people doing the thing that I'm doing. But apparently, I'm the only one who remembers things between deaths. And then it digs into like what's going on with that. I bump into somebody else in the past who knows what I'm doing and is also doing what I'm doing. And it's just, it becomes very strange. So I'm not just doing, I don't just have the fun gameplay pulling me forward, but I also have like the what's going on in this world kind of thread to tug at, which I really like.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention. Like,
yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Because I'm fascinated what they'll do with that, because these games are, you have goals that you're trying to go towards, but if you didn't make it, it was just like, well, do I want to do this again? Like, I don't, sometimes it would get like a little long in the tooth for me, where it was just like, I'll put this down and come back to it later. And then sometimes I just never did. But with this one, I'm like, I kind of want to find out what's going on behind the scenes. So like, I feel like they've added like a very effective other, element to draw the player forward, which I like. That's kind of become my go-to game to play on the Switch, which is crazy because I was playing stuff on my Pocket, and now I've kind of like put that back down in favor of playing Reigns on my Switch. But yeah, I'm having a blast with it. There's also like little kind of goals that you can get in addition to that have like kind of not meta gaming, but like, almost mini game type things. Like I found out how to make rice wine because I got in good with somebody, and it's like, okay, here's how you do it. Here's a very specific way you do it. You have to add rice 9 times, and then you have to filter it after the fact. And they remind you of that the first time you try to make it. And then every subsequent time they're like, do you need to add more rice or do you need to filter it? And it's like, have you been keeping track? Like, and I like that. And they'll only do that like a couple of, like, sometimes I'll make 10 decisions, and then the rice wine will come back up. And it's like, okay, well, so I started like making we were talking about, drawing wizardry maps and stuff. Like, I like it when games are like, are you paying attention? Are you keeping track? Because if you are, you're going to get rewarded, and then it's like, okay, well, but it's been really cool. I've been really enjoying it. I like these games a lot. I feel like they work super, super well on the Switch. They might actually work even better on mobile, but I don't know.
They seem very much the kind of pick up, put down, game that you play on like a bus, something like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they are like instant save games where like you can't go back ever. And I've been like, I said something, and it doesn't happen hardly ever with Reigns, but it has definitely happened with RPGs. not so much Baldur's Gate, but sometimes stuff like that, where like I'll say something, like I'll read something and I will kind of interpret what they're going to say in a certain way. And it wasn't that. And I'm like, wait, that's not what I wanted to do. Like, I don't, and then, but I'm now they've just killed me. Now I got to start over again. So, but yeah, other than that, like, yeah, it's all awesome. I really dig it. I highly recommend it. I don't know. Let me check how much it's going for real quick.
Yeah, obviously the Reign series has been around for at least a while now. Like, I don't know how many games there are in there, but I heard about it even as far back as the first one. Like, that seems really cool. And then just never got around to it. So, yeah, but they've been trucking along.
$3.
They're very good. $3. That's a steal.
Oh my God. I can't believe I forgot one of the most important things. There's combat in this one.
Oh, shit. All right.
Ooh.
And the combat is
personal or like big military thing?
It's strategic. It's card-based strategic. So what happens, and this is weird. So you have three, I can't believe, I'm so glad I pulled this up on Steve so I remember to talk about this. Because this is like a huge departure. I've never played one. Oh yeah, I also played Reign's Game of Thrones for the show. That's right. That was a good one. I like that one a lot. There are some like there are some legit like really good Game of Thrones tie-in games. I actually really liked the Game of Thrones Telltale game. It's brutal. It's really brutal. Like,
yeah, I didn't play that one, but I heard some liked it, some didn't, and it was kind of, you know, it was a Telltale game when at the point where they're just throwing everything out. It's like, you know, if you're not Walking Dead or Tales from the Borderlands, then you're probably fine.
Yeah, I liked. Well, let me rephrase. I thought that the Game of Thrones Telltale game was better than the Tales of the Borderlands game. I liked playing it less, in much the same way that I like watching Game of Thrones less than I like watching Arrested Development or Seinfeld, for example, where it's just like
we can appreciate it more, but man,
this is really good, but man, this is like so stressful. And also, like, there's a certain extent to which like anything set in Game of Thrones is like, this isn't going to end good. This isn't going to end well for like anyone. And the game is like doubly that. But anyways, to get back to Reign's Three Kingdoms, the combat is really interesting because it's almost like Magic the Gathering in that there's like individual health and then there's like representative force health. So like you have 6 health points for each side, and each person can put up to 4 cards up to represent them, but they're in a diamond. And you have 3 turns, and to attack, you have to rotate that diamond. And whichever way you're rotating it, the person that's coming to the front is the one who's going to attack. And they have their own stats. They've got their own health. They've got their own damage. The main character has a special. They have like standard health. I think they have like 5 health. And they start with 1 attack. But the caveat is their special ability is every time they attack, their attack goes up by 1 for the rest of that match. So like if you can find, so like let's say the main character, your avatar is in the front, and then there's somebody to the left who is an archer who shoots everyone 1 time. So you rotate them forwards, it hits everybody on the opposing side 1 time. Then you rotate back to the left. Your main character shoots once, does 1 damage to the person right in front of them, and then their attack goes up to 2. Then you can either rotate to the person on the right, or you can rotate back to the archer to shoot everybody 1 time. And it's
a juggling match, and I'll take too much damage and die while building up your own attack to get the special thing.
Yeah, and if the person
and all these cards are different, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the like each side's life is what needs to be depleted before a victory is secured. And if the person in front is down, then any damage you deal goes straight to like that core 6 health points. So but you can't, if you're rotating towards, once somebody gets knocked down, they have a 2 counter on them. And if you go to them and then activate like they would attack, it will reduce the turns for you to be able to redraw a card that's not them because they're gone now. But then you can pull another card from your deck if you spend those
Pull a
2 turns
replacement,
to get
okay.
them back. Or you can just rotate and try to like win with whatever forces you have left. That just gives you fewer options for like how you rotate things. But it's very, very interesting. I don't think I've lost with it yet, but I definitely have gotten into hairy situations where like I was gonna lose if I wasn't like really careful. But yeah, and there's all kinds of like you can meet Lubu, you can meet like all kinds of like crazy, standard historical figures.
Can you pursue him? You shouldn't pursue him, but can you?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's a trap.
I bested him in combat. I'm just gonna tell you right now.
Oh, no.
It was you, Ryan. You were the Dynasty warrior after all this time.
But the funny thing is that I did that, and then I did some other stuff, and people were like, "I can't believe you've done this," and like my troops revolted. They were like so mad at me. But yeah, there was like this old man who was also war. The problem is I am like the person who, like, I'm super happy to be playing this game because like I like the Reigns games, but I also don't really know that much about the Three Kingdoms, like the Warring Kingdoms period.
Yeah, Warring Kingdoms period
of Chinese history. So like
the vast majority of what I know of it is from Muso games. Not exclusively, but a lot of it. So
which is great because like this is a way for me to get introduced to it. But if there are any in jokes like that, like I'm not. They're gonna go over my head.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Admittedly, that's probably the most persistent one. In addition to the really bad voice acting in the early one.
Yeah, but
the yellow turbans. Always those pesky yellow turbans.
Oh man, that was like
Always
literally
the
the
yellow
first thing I had to deal with.
Yeah,
That's literally the first plot point in that period. It's like the Yellow Turban Rebellion happens.
Yeah, you have to
and
side
then
with them or the Imperial forces. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that kind of like starts the collapse of the Empire, which means all the different factions rise up and say, "Fuck this, we're doing our own thing," and then that's how it all happens. It all starts there, basically.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, but for $3, like we're talking about, like what a great thing is that we're talking about 2 really fun games that are extremely affordable, which is really cool. But yeah, I recommend it. It's interesting. I'm looking at the Steam reviews. It's mixed, which is crazy because I feel like that's like the 3rd or 4th game that I've like really enjoyed or gotten into where like the Steam reviews are mixed, and I'm like, why? I don't know why. This game is fun. Maybe the PC version doesn't work that well. I have no idea. Or maybe people are just like expecting something different, or maybe they don't like the fact that there's combat in it. I don't know. But I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying it.
I have to go perusing.
A cool thing that I got was there's a character that you can meet that like unlocks your kind of stat tracking. And so now I just unlocked like full stat tracking so I can actually go in and be like, you've done this number of this, which I always love to have in games like this. That's always so fun. But
yeah, it's neat to keep track of.
Yeah. I think my record right now is something like 500 days, 600 days or something like that, which is like a pretty respectable. Yeah. Pretty respectable run, but yeah, it's fun. I've also like got smoked like very quickly sometimes where it's just like, I'm going to do this thing. Okay. I'm going to do this other thing. Wait, I didn't realize that this would be I thought this answer would make people mad, but like reduce my popularity. And it actually like made them mad, but raised the meter, which caused me to die. And I'm like, well, that's not great. That's not great. There's a certain degree towards which I'm like trying to go in as each of the different like reigning characters and be like, all right, this person is no nonsense. They're just gonna be a hardline militarist and they don't care about anything else. And sometimes that works. Sometimes that works really, really well, and I get a nice long run. And sometimes that pigeonholes me so fast that I just am killed because people are like, "Whoa, you're a little too ambitious. We got to take you out." And that's fun. On recent runs, I've started just being like, all right, I don't care what the answer is going to be, and what I'm not imagining myself to be some sort of a consistent character. I'm literally just trying to keep these gauges in the middle for as long as I can, and that's been working fairly well. But I still get kind of like sideswiped by like a sequence of weird decisions or whatever. But or like I won't look at the meter for like a couple of questions, and then I'll be in a really bad position. So like, yeah, you can't let yourself get too in. You got to be paying attention to that. But yeah, I recommend it for $3. Like, why not? Come on.
Yeah. And that game is Reign's Three Kingdoms for those who are just tuning in, right?
Yes. And the first game that we were talking about, if you missed that one, we did not say what that was. That was 20 minutes till dawn.
And before that, it was Void Terrarium 2. So those are the games we've been talking about. Most recently, Reign's Three Kingdom.
Well done.
You are welcome, podcast listeners.
Well done, Kris. Well done. All right, Lucas, you're up.
Yeah. I'll talk about Wizardry again.
Yay.
How could you?
Yeah. So during the Game of the Year podcast, I talked about how dungeon RPGs have kind of been my latest hyperfixation. And when I say hyperfixation, I mean like I'll play one game, then I'll play another game, then I'll play a different game, then I'll spend hours on Wikipedia reading about these games, and then all the different iterations of them and whatnot. Until I just have this like holistic picture of what this thing I'm randomly like obsessed with.
Series, this genre, this developer, all of it, all at once.
And falling into Wizardry specifically was really interesting because that rabbit hole has like
that goes back as far as games have gone. Like, that is old.
Like, not only does it go all the way back,
games.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
1980, like with a 0 at the end. But it also, it's like got this really interesting intersection with like Japanese games, because like Wizardry starts in the West and it goes on. It's like this pillar PC game kind of thing, and then it kind of dies off, and then Japan really, really likes it, and companies over there get a hold of the IP. And there's just this whole other world of Wizardry games that aren't even available in English. But recently, the very first Wizardry was remade again, this time by Digital Eclipse, of all people. We probably know Digital Eclipse around here the most for things like the first Mega Man Legacy Collection, some of the like Disney stuff that's been coming out. They've been like the sort of like old school remaster house. And then here we have like a
sort of in the Night Dive kind of category.
Yeah. But with more like kind of the 2D side scroller kind of stuff. But this Wizardry remake is like a full on from the ground up, just this game, but bigger and very different in a lot of ways. It is a full-on remake in the fullest sense of the word. And I found myself like playing around with this a little bit. It's in early access right now. I got a code a few months back and really just now got around to diving into it. And of course, like I talked before about rabbit holes, playing this caused me to ping pong back to looking at the originals, which ping pong back and forth to like, oh, look at all the different ports of this game that are on different platforms and different languages. And like, there's a Game Boy version, there's a Wonder Swan version, there's Super Nintendo, PlayStation. Like this game has been on everything that plays video games. Usually there's like really
it gets around.
There's like really stark differences too between like the Western produced versions and like the Japanese ones. Mostly because like the Japanese ones are like on handhelds, but also they just have like that more like coherent visual style that you get from like a Japanese RPG, where like the visuals are like kind of neat and tidy, and like the music is more video gamey, and it's like you can tell which side is which. Whereas like the Western RPGs of old, they're a lot like, I don't know, jankier for lack of a better word. It's like you can sort of see the seams and the pieces that are kind of put on top of each other.
Very much a case of lots of inspirations at the time as well. Like, obviously, all emerged from tabletop gaming, which all emerged from, classic wargaming kind of thing. So, and then they're like, what if we do this with fantasy? And then still just like started taking different inspiration and making their own things and all of that. So less consistent throughput when all told. So
yeah. And then you have like that stuff basically directly leads into like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy and you know, you could argue it ties into like the Elder Scrolls and whatnot. Just in like two very different directions. But if you look at like I don't know, Wizardry 8 or something, you can kind of see it's in this weird like in between everything state.
Yeah, doesn't quite know what it wants to be at this point.
Exactly, and they're all kind of ugly, and I don't know. But this one's interesting because it takes the bones of the original Wizardry, and it even like has a little like superimposed ASCII version of the game kind of like running in the corner of the screen, and you can like blow it up to fit over the whole thing if you want, or just make it disappear entirely, but it's like playing what you're playing, and it's kind of cute.
That's a really neat touch.
It is it gives you perspective on like where this stuff started. But I guess
There's a
like
bunch of remasters that have done stuff like that, like Halo and the Command & Conquer remastered, where you just press a button and change graphic style. It's like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It really like puts into perspective the work that is actually being done, even if it's just like a remaster. So what Digital Eclipse does here that stands out, I guess, is it starts pretty accurate. The original Wizardry is very, very unforgiving and very, very restrictive. So, like, a lot of things you would see in more modern dungeon crawlers, like, oh, I've got a thief, I'll put him in the back row and give him a bow so he can still contribute. And the original Wizardry, it's like, no, your little squishy thief man needs to be in the front or he's useless. So if you want to, you know, safely open treasure chest, you have to put this guy out, you know, in the line of fire, or you know, deal with the drawback of not doing that, or just have him wasting a slot in your party. So stuff like that. And then like your characters, especially in the first couple levels, they can easily be one shot by, you know, the first thing you come across, and then when you go back, you have to pay to revive them, but it's a random chance it'll work. And you have to sit there and watch the like chant happen, and like the text kind of goes abracadabra, blah 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 blah, and it's like, did it work, or is my guy now a pile of ashes? Well, he's a pile of ashes. Okay, I can pay double for another chance, but if it screws up again this time, they're just dead permanently. You have to go re-roll a new character.
Random chances on random chances while eating into your resources, which if you die early, you probably haven't built up that much, and
yeah, exactly.
Cascading failure state.
Oh yeah. And like you can try to go get your old guys if they die in the dungeon, but then you have to like have an open party slot for them, and you have to find the room they died in and survive and leave somebody behind maybe. So it's like I think if you're like newer to this kind of thing, you might be tricked into thinking like, oh, this is like XCOM. I'll make all my friends. And then 5 minutes later, they're all dead.
Okay, I'm sorry, but if you do that in XCOM, you are also asking for trouble. Like, holy shit. Any group I make in XCOM, it comes with the caveat of, by the way, your deaths will be glorious and frequent.
Fair enough. Yeah, so the sort of like asterisk with this one is like there's a lot of I guess adjustments that you can go in and toggle. So like you can have your like totally vanilla OG Wizardry experience where just like everything is oppressive and difficult, or you can kind of like go in and tweak certain things. Like you can
modular difficulty settings and such.
Yeah, exactly. There's like presets, and then there's like even more granular stuff. So you can do things like in the original, if you go to the inn, there's like different costing tiers. There's like you can lay down in the stable for free, but it only heals your magic, and then you have to pay more and more and more to get more HP back. Or you can just toggle that off and just you go stay in the inn and rest and heal. There's other things where it's like you can control the degree of information you get when you use a map spell. in the original game, it would only really give you like, here's where you are in relation to the exit, and it would give you like coordinates. You can go as far as like, it gives you everything that you've touched in a map. It doesn't tell you where you're standing, and it doesn't persist, but you can call up like the most recent version of that without paying extra MP for it. So it's like, okay, here's the most recent map state, and then you can kind of get your bearings.
Build yourself a full SMT auto map kind of thing.
Exactly. So it doesn't like full on give you like total like Etrian Odyssey style map, but it gives you way more than the original Wizardry. There's like a bunch of other stuff. There's things like how stiff the penalties are for characters who die in the dungeon, and a bunch of other stuff. Like there's a surprising amount of stuff you can kind of sift through, especially like if you aren't super familiar with the game.
Like me.
But it all leads to like, yeah.
If you don't have the 40 years of history with it.
My biggest thing is like I had opportunities to get into it, and I've definitely played some of them. Like we've talked about Labyrinth of Galeria and stuff like that, and there were some other ones. Like I think there was like some Dragon Quest one that I played on like the original Game Boy or something like ages ago. I might be wrong, or it might have just been Dragon Quest was like first person or whatever. But I've always had, I don't know what it is. I've had like this mental block against RPGs that are first person. So like, that includes like all that whole run of games.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I think it was probably Final Fantasy like training me and like indoctrinating me or whatever.
Your characters are now on the screen.
I want to be able to
against
see,
the monsters.
like I want to be, and even when like we went to like Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that, and it was like behind them, where it was like, okay, so I see that, and then when I get a better weapon, I can see it there. Whereas like with a first person one, like it doesn't matter if I change armor, if I change characters, if I change armor, like weapons or whatever, or equipment, like it doesn't change.
The very small animation flash might change, but that's about it. You don't.
Yeah, and I don't really see the changes in my character, which I always liked. Like, playing World of Warcraft for so many years, like I really liked watching my avatar like become more impressive looking. And with the first person games like that, I never really got that. And that's like a very simple and superficial kind of difference. But that is kind of what kept me from diving deeper into that that kind of aesthetic, which is weird because like I don't know what it is, but I mostly played Skyrim in first person, even though there was the option to be third person. So I don't know if it's just the turn-based nature of it that is weird for me, but for whatever reason, that's why I never got into them. But I, hearing you talk about them, and then obviously like I like NIS's foray into it. I also played, like, it's not exactly the same, but I played Severed, which is, first person kind of dungeon crawly, like with touch controls and stuff. But those are like kind of the exceptions to the rule because those are developers and publishers that I already liked. And then I kind of carried that affection into this to kind of give them, I guess it gave me more rope, you know what I mean? Where it was just like, this is they have more, they've made more deposits into my emotional bank account. And so there's more for me to withdraw before it's empty,
Yeah, you're less likely to take a stab on something like, Legend of Grimrock or whatever, just on the aesthetic alone. But if it's developed by NIS, you go, well, I trust them.
I love their art, and like I like their sense of humor and stuff like that. So like that's gonna care. And for Drinkbox, it's like they made Guacamelee. Like what are you gonna do?
What else are we doing? What are we doing here, guys?
It's one of the great platformers of all time. Like, come on. But
yeah, one of the cool things I noticed about like Japanese ones, especially, is like they kind of recognize that and try to meet you in the middle. Like a lot of them will have like little libraries of like character portraits you can pick from. So it's like, here's your warrior, but then like here's like 6 different ways you can make it kind of look in the menus and stuff.
Yeah, and that is something that I appreciate about that is something I appreciate about Labyrinth of Galeria is that like they have those little like pictures. and the little portraits and stuff. And like, because it's NIS, they each have like a lot of characters. So you can just be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And like this particular character, like puppet class, is going to give me some mechanical benefits, but also like, I just like how it looks. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Like I like that.
You're still able to get the aesthetic feedback from it, even if it's not front and center all the time.
Yeah,
you can just glance in and say, "Yeah, I know that. I picked that character. They look cool. They do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you guys know this, and particularly Kris. Like we were literally just playing a game before the show where like I was picking characters that just looked freaking cool, and like that does a lot for me. Like I am, I am very.
And it's very easy to do in Granblue, where, as you say, everyone is really hot or really cool.
Yeah,
That's
or
true.
both. Yeah, most of them are both. Yeah, and there's a derogatory connotation with being superficial, but I feel like that doesn't have to be the case. Like there is, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but
but a cool cover art will really help.
Yeah, and you can't judge the book by its cover, but the cover is the first thing you see, and if the cover doesn't look good, you're not going to take a chance on what's inside. You know what I mean? Like there is, when you study social theory, like there's this idea of like, well, we should really value what goes to the inside when we're like pursuing somebody romantically. And like the fact of the matter is that's like the first filter is just like, do I vibe with how this thing, this person, this situation like looks? Do I vibe with that? Because that's the thing you can literally just do from a snap. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. Do we get on well there? Okay, awesome. Okay, then let's do some other stuff. Let's talk about serious stuff. Okay, now do we get on? And like each layer is like just a different layer of filtration. And the thing that is unfortunate is when the visual turns you off to something that you otherwise would have really jived with. And that's what, like, hearing Lucas, somebody who's like very knowledgeable, not only in just the greater genre, but also like in this subgenre, is like really making me want to like give it another shot, because I like what I'm hearing. And it's also been like a really long time since I've played, with like few exceptions, like Sea of Stars or something like that. Like it's been a long time since I've played like an actual honest to goodness like RPG, or like a really old school RPG. And there is like, like I found when I was playing with my Analog Pocket and going back to FF2 and being like, I like this. Like this isn't like amazing, but like there's something here for me that's like I was thirsty in a way that I wasn't aware of. And some of these retro RPGs I think are gonna kind of
thirsty for numbers going up.
Yeah. They're going to satiate me. Siggy Liam in the chat says, as the adage goes, you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you do good. You do good, you win. And that's how it is.
Amazing. Yeah, it's good that you bring that up, because I've been kind of like trying to wrestle with that myself, because I was right there with you for a long time, where like Final Fantasy and Pokemon were the first ones like this I played, and I liked seeing my characters and everything. And
Pokemon, great example.
Yeah, you see all your dudes while you're doing stuff.
And then it's even like the thing where like I like Pikachu because I'm just a man.
We all started there.
I'm just a human man. I can only do so much. But like you look at what Pikachu looks like from behind in Red and Blue, compared to like Ruby and Sapphire, compared to like some of the later games where like Pikachu really started to look like like you would see in like the art or something.
Yeah.
And I never watched the cartoon, so like I didn't have that touch point, but like also looked like the anime as well. And it's like
Gen 1 Pikachu is a completely different character in a lot of ways, because it wasn't the mascot at the time.
It's just a real fatty. It's great. It's fantastic.
Bring back Fat Pikachu.
And there's other ones.
Just a wild animal.
Yeah, there's other ones where like I feel like the opposite, where it's just like I feel like Gen 1 Charizard looks like incredible. Whereas like the modern ones, it's just like, oh, I got this long neck, but like he was so jagged because of all the pixels. I was like, I'm imagining scales and spikes and all sorts of stuff going around. But yeah, like that. Yeah, that's definitely it. Sorry I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. But it's just like I'm still trying to like figure out like what made these games click for me. Like I know there was like a period of time where ironically enough, being here, like around like Final Fantasy 10, 11, 12, where I just kind of got sick of those games for a bit. I was in high school. And that's kind of when I like discovered like Persona and like Disgaea and Dragon Quest and stuff. So I don't know if it was just like I started getting hungry for just something different or what.
Or you slipped away from what was, front and center mainstream kind of thing and just explored more of what the genre had to offer.
Yeah, and I think maybe this dungeon RPG thing is just like the next step of that, because it's like, all right, I had my like introductory Final Fantasy phase, then I had my like edgy teenager phase. Now I'm like old and I'm playing like the old people games. But it's
again,
like
you're talking to a fan of city builders, man. I'm right there. It's done. I'm old.
It's weird. It's like I saw this anecdote on, I think it was the Saga subreddit. Someone was like, when you're a kid, you like Pokemon. When you're in your teens, you like Final Fantasy, and then when you're 30, you like Saga. I don't know. It's I can't pinpoint, because I played like Etrian Odyssey on the DS. I played games like like Persona Q on the 3DS, and those are like just as classical in that sort of genre.
A few more concessions, but they are,
They still have their parts of them where they don't pull
dungeon
punches.
RPGs.
Mm-hmm. But I never really like I played them and I was like, oh, these are fun. But it wasn't until recently where I was like, okay, I'm like into these now. I'm not really sure what happened, but it's fun, especially because there's so much history built up there to like dive into. And that I think is why this particular release from Digital Eclipse stands out, because you can like, it's weird because like you can see how it's a really old game and you can see how they're like trying to make it approachable without kind of changing it too much. But then you can also play like the Japanese versions of it that did change a lot. And then also it's an early access, so you can kind of see like how they're thinking about it when they make changes.
Their thought process and their update schedule and everything, and just go, so that's what they think about that, or listening to community feedback and such, ideally, hopefully.
And like you go in the discussion boards, even just on Steam, and there's so many people that like preface their posts with like, I've been playing Wizardry for 45 years. It's like, man, these people they're still showing up. It's just so fascinating.
It's
on so many levels.
I find it really interesting because I'm trying to think, other than like, and I guess even then, but like if you look at like modern things like Baldur's Gate 3 as like a natural evolution of text-based adventure games, I suppose this would be less true. But I'm I guess maybe Worms would also be like a version of Scorched Earth or something. But like, I'm trying to think
Scorched Earth,
like games that existed in the earliest computer days and like genres that still exist and still get like entries. And there's not many. Like there in like the earliest games, like, I mean, the first video game obviously on an oscilloscope was Pong. And then, you've got early computers with like their ASCII art and stuff. And you've got, games like Scorched Earth, which is, after you get kind of art going, which is like a really simple game that I used to play in the computer lab when I was in like primary school. And, we've got that. We've got your first person games like that. Like even the, what was that? The Devil one that you were talking about during Game of the Year? Where like you look at the art and it's just like, it's like 2-bit.
Jesus Christ.
Was that the name from Hell, the paragraph long one?
No. It was like the Devil.
Oh no, I remember what I can't remember the name of it, but I remember exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I looked it up on Steam. It looks really cool.
Oh my god!
Even
I can't
Devil
believe
Lord's Reincarnation or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something in that vein, I think.
Something in that vein. But yeah, like when I was looking at that, I was like, oh, this is like very, and it's kind of become kitschy to kind of like go back to that aesthetic. You look at Return of the Obra Dinn, which is a fantastic game, but like that aesthetic is like just a 3D interpretation of what old
Mac 2 screens and such.
Yeah. And like that's great. And I mean they know that. They wear that on their sleeve. There's filters in that game where you can go into and be like, okay, this is on an Apple, this is on like a something like an Apple II, this is on a Lisa or whatever, or I forget what all they were. But yeah, like that is such an interesting thing. And I feel like
Demon Lord's reincarnation.
There you go. Yeah. But I do find that really interesting that like this is a genre that has started in like the earliest era of computer gaming, and it's still going, and there's, I'm
the core fundamentals are good. Why not just build on it, right?
Yeah. Which is kind of like how I feel about, my favorite genres, where it's just like, give me a Metroid style game, give me a Castlevania style game, like just every year or every 2 years until until I become one with the singularity and we all live eternally inside of the cloud-based ecosystem.
There you go.
Until we all become one as a morph ball.
Yeah, until I'm flopping through the lab and going out down the hill to the sea. A reference to a game. I'm not going to tell you what the title of the game is. You don't have any idea. Just going to be a bunch of legs sticking out. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
I understood that reference.
Can't wait. But yeah, Lucas, did you have anything else to say about that?
No, other than like, it's hard for me to even be like, this is one you should play, or like, if you've never played these games like this is the one you should start with. It's just really interesting, and I think if you like to kind of look at games at the like historical angle, I think there's a lot of stuff that's neat about this.
It's definitely a fascinating story. Again, even just from the perspective of it went from European to Japan loved it, and so Japan ran it in its own way and different things, and they've kind of back and forth, and both sides have taken adjustments. And just interesting to chart where the whole thing has gone, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can even like think about like roguelikes in that way too, because it's like in Japan they love wizardry, and that kind of brought things like Rogue to attention over there, and that spawned Mystery Dungeon and Dark Souls, and there's just so many like evolutionary pathways that you can kind of take off of this game. Just having this like random, nth remake of this game show up, it's just cool.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Do you have an answer for somebody who would say like if they wanted to jump into this, like where would be a good place for newcomers to start?
I think the Etrian Odyssey games are really good, especially because those just came out like on Switch and on Steam, and you can get them as a bundle or you can get them one at a time. And there's just like, they kind of have everything built in. Like, they have the different classes and the different portraits you can play with. You can make the map fill in by itself, or you can even like use your finger and draw the map on the screen as you go.
That was a major selling point, was that they used the DS touchscreen to draw the map yourself. So, spare you the graph paper. But
exactly. And then with the new ones, they kind of made it like optional because some people are like, "Oh, that's too much." I think the NIS ones, if you're into some more like straight up over the top anime flavor, I think Labyrinth of Refrain is really good.
I can second that one, yeah.
Yeah. And then to kind of get a look at like if it's wizardry specifically, there is, I have it pulled up, Wizardry Labyrinth of Lost Souls, which Xseed published. It came out on the PS3 a number of years ago, but it hit Steam in 2020. And it's kind of like a more modern version of Wizardry that's kind of like still kind of has, it's like, it's not full on anime looking for people who are kind of opposed to that, but it has a lot of like the same streamlining to it, but also still has that very, very classic like look and feel to it with the menus and everything. So it's kind of like the most streamlined and polished version of that specific series. So I would say, like, depending on what part of all that sounds best to you, I think one of those.
Do you want to go right back, or do you at least want modern concessions before you dive fully?
Yeah.
I'll toss one more into the ring just for that, because this is probably the only full dungeon RPG I've ever actually just sat down and finished, and it should become apparent why at the name, Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey.
Nice.
That being, so it's like, it's a straight up Shin Megami Tensei game with all the bells and whistles of what it had at that time, the monster capture, negotiation, and then fusion, building up your teams, adjusting for that. Pretty challenging, but fair comparatively. And interesting dungeon crawls, decent story. The
immaculate vibes in that game.
Really good vibes in Strange Journey.
That one is
originally on DS, remade on 3DS, which was all right. I think that's the only place you can get it at the moment. But it is seaworthy. Yarhar, yarhar.
Definitely. That was, I believe, that shares the engine with Etrian Odyssey. There's a lot of similarities there. Yeah. And then that one will like really throw you in the deep end with like traps on the floors and stuff like that. That one really likes to mess with you. But any of those I think are good starting points. But
nice.
And if you're curious about this one, just to reiterate the title, that is Wizardry, the Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord.
Nice. As always, just a fantastic title.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Cool. Wizardry, the man who decided he wouldn't try to go after being the king that one time. That's what's going to happen if I ever get him in charge of like naming a game.
we all need to go the Monu route and just have paragraph names.
Oh my god! Hold on.
We have to look this up.
I have to.
This was one of my highlights in the game.
I wasn't even going to talk about that. Have you guys seen the AI generated? And this is before AI became a big thing. The AI generated, or no, it wasn't AI generated. I think it was like predictive text. It was predictive text, which is what that is. But like the predictive text Harry Potter book. Did you guys see this?
I don't think so.
It's incredible.
This is ringing a bell that
Hold on.
We need to share with the audience.
While you're looking that up, I'll just do this again.
Harry, so the name of this, for those of you who want to look it up.
Hold it in. No.
I love it. Harry Potter and the portrait of what looked like a large pile of ash.
What the hell?
Hold on. It's truly fantastic. I love it. I adore it. It's great. I'm going to read you a small excerpt because it's...
I do remember hearing at least a little of
this.
It's
outstanding. Chapter 1, The Handsome One. The castle grounds snarled with a wave of magically magnified wind. The sky outside was a great black ceiling which was full of blood. The only sounds drifting from Hagrid's hut were the disdainful shrieks of his own furniture. Magic. It was something that Harry Potter thought was very good. Leathery sheets of rain lashed at Harry's ghost as he walked across the grounds toward the castle. Ron was standing there and doing a kind of frenzied tap dance. He saw Harry and immediately... He saw Harry and immediately began to eat Hermione's family.
What?
Ron's Ron shirt was just as bad as Ron himself.
This is generative text, Harry Potter?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So it's
This
truly...
is the future of art. This is what it's too late. This is what we've all become.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Incredible.
I needed that laugh. That was good.
If you it keeps going. There's
I know.
There's like 3 to 4 times that much.
Pages of it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a ton, unfortunately. There's not a ton, but that it is really good.
The early days. Nowadays, it gets a little more convincing, but
but the fact that's the fact. So that is Harry Potter and the portrait of what looked like a large pile of ash. Fantastic.
Amazing.
I can't wait for the movie version.
Yes.
And of course, if you haven't listened to the Game of the Year episode, Brian is responding to the game Monu. Defeat monsters and gain strong weapons and armor. You may be defeated, but don't give up. Become stronger. I believe there will be a day when the heroes defeat the Devil King.
Yeah.
Actual legit title.
Yeah, if you go on the Steam page, it has the whole thing written down.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
It's fantastic. Anyways, that's my favorite Harry Potter book.
Mine too.
It isn't, but it's I did grow up with that stuff, so I do have a bit of nostalgia for that, despite the fraught nature nowadays,
Right.
or even at the time, for totally different reasons. I was forbidden from watching that stuff because my family is very religious.
Right.
That'd do it. Yeah.
Which definitely, this is totally an aside, but that definitely fueled my very staunch position nowadays, which is like, if you're gonna be really strongly against something, you should probably know something about it. Because my parents were like, this is demonic. He's doing witchcraft and casting spells, and it's like, if you literally just read it, they're just saying the Latin words for what they want to happen, which is not. If you studied anything about like black magic or anything like that, like that's not. This is like bargain basement D&D stuff, which is also something I was not allowed to get into, Dungeons and Dragons. But
when I mentioned to my mother when I was like mid-teenager that I had gone into Dungeons and Dragons, she flipped. Yeah. And she's not even that religious or anything, but she flipped, and I was just like, what the? And just had to sit down. I was like, here's what this is. Here is what we do. You're crazy. Don't listen to the crazies. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just, it's theater kids doing stuff without a stage is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
Pretty much.
It's multiplayer writing, and I'm a writer, so.
Yeah.
Or you hold me back, Mom.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try to pronounce this user's name correctly this time. So C Gil I am says
that's clearly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the prequel, only in the form of a Broadway play, Harry Potter and the Tray of Priorly Inconspicuous Roommate Brownies. I dig it. But yeah, so that is that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about
what are your big ticket items?
Well, I talked about Reigns, which I've been playing on the Switch, so I'm going to talk about another game that I've been playing on the Switch. And that is Terra Nil. So have either of you heard about this game?
That sounds familiar, and that may just be because you talked about writing about it recently.
It's kind of I'll let Brian talk about it in full, but yeah, I played because it came out originally as like a pixelated proof of concept on itch, and I just happened to stumble upon it once upon a time, and so I played that version to its completion, and then like a year later it popped up on Steam with the more current art style and such they had now, and got developed into the full release. So I haven't played that, but I did completely clear and love the prototype. So yeah, go ahead.
Nice. Yeah, I have not finished it yet because I've been bouncing between some other games that I've been covering, one of which I will get to later in the show. But yeah, I'm playing the version on Switch, like I said, and I am really curious. There are some times where I'll play a game and I'll be like, should I reach out and ask for a PC key? Because there are some games where I really, really appreciate having mouse controls.
Mouse control is big for like strategy, and this is kind of city builder adjacent. So,
and even like, we talked about Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood in the Game of the Year episode. Like I reached out and asked for a PC key for that because I wanted to get more involved in like building and designing and like artistically rendering the tarot cards and stuff. And I definitely recommend that. Like there's not many games that I don't recommend people play on PC. But I have no experience playing this one on PC. I just know that I started playing it like before bed, and I try not to play games in bed, but every once in a while something will grab me to the extent where I'm just like, I'm tired and I want to lay down, but I also don't want to stop. And thankfully I had this on my Switch. That happened with Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. Like I went and got Mario Wonder and I got Spider-Man 2, and then I came home and fired up Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood and just played it until 3 a.m., And this was another one of those. I don't think I stayed up until quite 3 a.m. because, that's rough. But, I started playing it and I was like, all right, I like the premise. Like I really dig what's going on with this whole idea. Because the idea of Terra Nil is that you start with nothing. Like Terra Nil literally is Latin for like no earth. Or I guess Terra Nil could literally be earth from nothing. But yeah, so the idea is you start and there's nothing. The earth is just a barren wasteland. It's
a wasteland, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're coming in with your terraforming technology. Although it's not really strictly terraforming, although you do get into some of that later on. But it is like you are restoring the ecology. You're going in, you're placing devices at certain intervals around the map to like make the soil more fertile, and then you're doing something to seed it, and you're planting wind turbines at intervals to like a pylon from StarCraft, where it's just like I have to have stone to be able to place down a wind turbine, and then that will give me a huge circle in which I can put my buildings that need to be powered by it. And then once I do that to like make this surrounding land fertile, then I can place down a seeder, and then that will cause everything to kind of like bloom in grass and all that sort of stuff. And then the idea is that you start with different ecosystems, kind of like SimCity, like area maps, where it's like you'll have this amount of this type of resource. You'll have like a river or something like this. You'll have this amount of like hills or mountains. And those all impact like what you're doing. But the idea is you build up the grass, then you build up maybe a forest or a jungle or something like that. Then you get water moving in different areas. And what you're trying to do is bring this area back to life, get it really lush with life, and then introduce animals, or like see where animals are starting to spring up. And then once this area has been revitalized, your job is to eliminate all of the machinery that you brought in and bring everything down to
that's the beautiful like pièce de résistance for this game.
I loved it. Yeah.
It's one thing to just rebuild the ecology, but then the final objective of it is to remove all trace that you were there.
Yeah. And
to just leave it natural. And I love that.
It's fantastic.
That's an excellent
and it's tricky too. It's tricky to do that.
Yeah, it's not as easy as you'd think.
Yeah. Because you have to like you create like a ship, and then you send out these kind of harvest machines, but they can only go out on certain routes, and they're automated. So you'll have to, like, if I'm doing, there's one of the I think the second area you're doing is like on an island chain or something. It might not have been. That might have been the third area. But you're on an island chain, so you have to build like a tram. You have to build like tram lines that go everywhere, and you can use those tram lines to move buildings from place to place. But when the end goes, you actually have to specifically tell your recycling machines to go to a particular node. So if you go to that node and then they recycle it, that means if you can't get to anything that's past it, which means that you have to decide a place and then like kind of work your way back to your central hub, taking everything along the way with you. And sometimes I've been like, dang it. Like I got everything but one. So now I have to build a system out to go get that thing and then like recycle my way back in. But then you leave and then it's great, and you've got this, this kind of book that shows you, the different species that you've like reintroduced or, things like that. And eventually you can build like sonar stations where you can ping in different areas, of like, hey, you might have, we need to make sure that we have wolves in this ecosystem. Look for them in like wooded areas near sources of food. And so you'll like ping a forest that's like on the edge of like a prairie or a forest that's on the edge of like a lake or something, where you'll also find like bears or stuff like that. So like there are a lot of like weird like elements in there that I haven't seen in other games. I'm not sure if this is like a genre or something, but I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything quite like it. I think the prototype labeled itself as a reverse city builder. So that's kind of why it pulled my attention, me being the city building nerd. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't seen anything tackle this in quite the same way. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Sigley I am says, you must place that in a power field. Also, an ecological puzzle game that sounds incredibly fascinating and unexplored. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why it grabbed me so thoroughly is because I haven't played anything like it before. And you know me, I'm always in for novel experiences. That's one of the things that I it's very easy in this. Just as a quick aside, it's very easy to get imposter syndrome in an industry with so many talented people. But I like to think that finding and highlighting interesting, smaller games that haven't been discovered yet is one of the things that I bring to the table. And
likewise.
Yeah. And I dig it. And this is cool. And I mean, huge shout outs to, the people who represent these games that are willing to send out keys for it, because that's how I come to know about a lot of these things. But again, like there are a lot of people who are trying to sell their games out there, and it's not always easy to like find the real gems. But I really
There's
like
a lot of shovelware out there and a lot of questionable stuff. Not a lot of curation. It takes people to actually filter through this stuff and find something that looks good, and then take a chance with their money and time to see if it's worthwhile. So whenever we find something like that, it is always worth bringing to attention, because you never know who might like it, which is
there were
half
loads
the
of
reason
people.
why
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
It's like half the reason, like, I never would have heard of Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, and it was one of my games of the year, right?
Yeah.
Likewise, I heard about Slay the Princess, and then I heard about it, and I was one of the people pushing for it to be played and such.
Yeah.
So it's something that's worth doing for sure.
Yeah.
And highlighting little different places that people wouldn't find in this artistic medium, because it's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I dig it. And I think it's really cool. I am curious now if a version of this game is still up on itch. Like if I
am looking that up as we speak.
Yeah, because if I could find that, I would love to try even to play like an early version of this game without the bells and whistles and stuff. If I could play it on mouse and keyboard and see.
Both versions of it are on itch now, and the other one is obviously called Terra Nil Prototype. That's the one I have, and
nice.
Yeah, it's at the whole name your price tag for itch, so you can get it pretty cheap. It's got really nice pixel art in comparison to the more detailed 3D stuff, but this is it's good. I don't know how much it differs from the final game and what's been added or removed or tweaked or anything, but like it was a good time, really. So be curious if you tried that out, and
Yeah, I definitely will. I'm really, really curious to know if I am able to do things a little bit more easily on the like mouse-based version of that.
Yeah, and this one got picked up by Devolver Digital, so they have a pretty good rep for backing winners in the indie scene. So yeah, more reason than ever to go have a look at it.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, so check it out. Check it out. It's really cool.
Terra Nil, that's on Switch and also on Steam and on itch and everything else.
Oh man, that Terra Nil prototype, like the graphics look actually super sick. I love it.
Oh yeah, it looks really pretty. I understand why they did the shift for the full version, but it's like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like just solid, pretty pixel art.
Yeah, that's dope. That's really cool.
Looks like if you have Netflix, you can also play it that way.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
That's cool.
I haven't dabbled in the Netflix side of games at all, mainly because I don't use TV all that much, aside from plugging my console. So
yeah. Also, shout out to Itch, just a really great platform.
Yeah, always underrepresented, always underappreciated. They do exceptional work, and they host the most experimental and weird and stuff that people are just like, I just want to make something and throw this up there, and yeah, it's great. You find all sorts of cool shit on there.
There is all kinds of weird stuff, and also I don't know 100%. Are both is Itch also DRM free?
I believe so. Okay. Yes,
I know GOG is, but and that's where I like typically default to for that reason. Like if I'm gonna buy something and it's on Steam and GOG, like I'll typically get it on GOG. Assuming that there isn't like some wild price difference or whatever, but Itch is also really
usually
great.
The deciding factor for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they do also do like a lot of like if you really want to dive into the weird stuff, like get on Itch because there is no end.
And they will do, and people, go there and just like, I just made something. Half the time, there's stuff there that's available for free. There's stuff there that's like, $1. There's heaps of stuff where just like, name what you feel is fair. You want to pay me $5 for this? Great. Or you want to pay me 50 cents? I'll take it. It's a good little system.
Yeah, there's also like a bunch of game jams that are going on there where you can like check
that's where a lot of game jam and software development, like just rush jobs end up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I dig that. But yeah, anyways. Then I've got one more thing. But if one of you guys have something else we want to go to first, then that's totally fine with me.
Over to you, Lucas. I'm fine to hold off because my big ticket item I'll wait right for the end, I think.
Okay.
I have a lot to say.
Yeah, so this next one, I can't. This isn't like a full-on review or anything, but I have been playing Granblue Fantasy Relink, which I believe early access gates opened overnight or something like that. There's still like a review embargo in place for a few more days, but I figure like I can kind of give like a first impressions kind of thing, especially since I know you two are kind of freshly into the world of Granblue.
Yeah, this is kind of just playing Rising before this, and if I can convince him to, I think I might play a little bit more Rising afterwards.
I'd be down for more sets afterwards, absolutely. But Granblue is an interesting setting, always has been, so I've been curious
about this
one.
Yeah, so this is a full-on like action RPG. I'm trying to think of it. I am not sure if it is canon or not. It starts sometime into the story of the original game, and I'm not familiar enough to know if this is an arc that's just like the next arc after the main one in the original or not, or if it's an original story. Information on that is scarce, but basically you have this crew of people who have been airshipping around the world, running away from the Empire. Sometime before this game started, the Empire is toast, and then they kind of get attacked by a bunch of mysterious culty weirdos in white robes.
Oh no.
Yeah. And Lyria, the girl with blue hair who summons dragons and stuff is taken away, and so you and the homies basically have to go and fight the cult people. And I kind of have a hard time like explaining or I guess like kind of introducing this game because it doesn't really give much of a crap about like onboarding in that way. Like,
okay, so it doesn't care if you're a vet or anything like that. It's like, nope, we're just throwing you right in.
yeah, it's just like the Scooby Gang's all here. You're on an airship. Things go really bad. It's a really cool set piece. You crash the airship, and you're in like a whole new region of the world for these people. So it's like a fresh slate, but in the way of like the second or third arc in like a Dragon Ball Z kind of way.
We go to planet
like
where they've never been, but like these characters know each other. They've done stuff before.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a sort of like I don't know, journal, codex, what have it, where it kind of gives you like the bare minimum of like kind of here's how everything started. But otherwise, you've got this group of people, and it's got a similar approach, I think, to the fighting game, where it's like you've got the small group of characters who are like obviously like the main characters, and then just like they kind of pick some additional homies from the massive pool of characters that is Granblue.
Because the original is a gacha, so there's all sorts of characters on every kind of faction imaginable.
A gacha that has been running and still runs for, gosh, over a decade at this point, probably.
It's been around, yeah.
Yeah, and there's just tons and tons and tons of characters. So you've got like your ones that are more popular, and then you kind of got like your B tier, and they're all kind of like mixed together. And then for games like the fighting game in this, they kind of just like grab some. And there will be some that you'll see in both games.
Person in the chat, Namaya, is in it.
Yeah, my personal favorite is Fairy, who I believe is also in the fighting game.
Yeah, that's the whip girl with the summons. She's cool.
Yeah, she got the ghost dogs. Yeah, this is like I think one of the more fascinating things about this is it was originally developed by Platinum.
Years and years ago when it was first shown off, yeah.
Yeah, and much like many games Platinum was involved with at the time, there was drama or something, and they left the project. Around the same time Cygames, off their many mobile game successes, was flush enough with cash. They were just like, we're going to make some real games now.
We're going to take this gacha money and use it for good instead of evil.
Exactly. And I think they really did use it for good in this game, because it is a very, very solid, I don't even know how to put it. It's not like a character action game. It's not like really simple and like an anime game kind of way. It's like right in the middle of like
sort of like a Tales of kind of.
Yeah, kind of like a bigger scale Tales of, and it does a really, really good job making each character kind of play by their own rules within the wider rule set. So like combos don't work the same way for each character. Some characters have like guns, so that they operate like a totally different way. Fairy, who I've been using a lot, like she doesn't even really follow the same combo logic as the other melee characters, and there's a lot of like, she has really simple moves, but they'll summon her dogs, and then there's lots of different things you can do with the dogs. And
so you're playing
have you
V
played
from
Versus?
DMC5?
Yes, the original.
Okay.
So it's been a few years.
You haven't played Rising at all?
Not at all,
okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, she's the same. Yeah, she's the same way. Like, she's technically a melee character, but she still like does things. Her things are more one-off, and she's all about summoning her ghost pets and stuff. So, like, I really like seeing that sort
of
like,
screen pollution.
Yeah, I mean, she's awesome. Like, I love her design. It's so cool.
She's so cool.
Every fairy I have met kicks the shit out of me. That's not unique to fairy, but that's just me in general. But there you go.
in this game, she baby talks to her summons in the middle of like scraps, so she'll be like, "Oh, does somebody want to play after this is?" It's just like, oh man,
Nice. That's awesome.
that's so good. Yeah. One thing I don't know how much traction this has here, but it really reminds me of Dragalia Lost, and in terms of gameplay,
I've not
it's
played
got
that,
like,
so I can't speak to that.
I dabbled, so yeah.
so you might kind of get it. It's got like this sort of pseudo MMO thing where like a lot of the boss battles is like recognizing patterns that are typically like these really complicated AoEs that kind of like
attacks.
bounce around the screen. Yeah. You'll see like there's one boss fight where it's like it'll be chasing you with these like intersecting like bars that keep coming out, and then while those are chasing you, there'll be something else that kind of like does this little like line pattern around the screen. You have to be like, okay, I have to stop moving now.
Yeah.
Or I'll get wrecked.
As a former FF14 player, I am ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did competitive WoW rating, and it's so interesting that there are, you can play boss fights in like Final Fantasy 16 where they have that kind of scope and scale, but they don't typically lean so heavily into those sorts of things. And I kind of wonder why not. Because I do like those sorts of boss fights. And I did see some of that on the PAX West show floor when I was watching it. The game like totally grabbed my attention because it looks beautiful.
And they were
fighting like usual Cygames art style shining through there.
Yeah, they were fighting like some giant, but not even that. It was just like, it was the fidelity was very high. It was also very stylistic. And like, it looked like it was running at like a locked 60 frames.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which I was like really impressed by, because the particle effects were like out of control, which is great. Like that's awesome. I like the flashy, But they were fighting some dragon or some behemoth looking type thing, and it was just like swirling around, doing a bunch of moves, like destroying things. Debris was flying all over the place, and that's what caught my attention. And this was before I'd started playing any of the Granblue games. I got into Rising afterwards, because of how Relink looked.
The boss fights are definitely like big, and they escalate, and there's some that are just super wild. Don't want to get into those for spoilers, obviously, but like it does a lot with like finding new ways to like throw some new gimmick at you for the boss fight that actually like feels good to engage with, and it's like really exciting. And like my biggest problem with it so far is like so you've got your like core cast of characters, and then to get more, there's like an additional list of bonus characters, and you have to get this, you have to earn this like special item. And then you earn it in various ways. Like you get a few just handed to you as you progress the story. There's some that are like mission rewards, whatever. And you get to like just trade one in. It's like, I'm going to cash in my ticket and I'll pick this person. But like it does the thing where it's like you can have 4 people and you can choose who you're controlling. You can't like swap willy-nilly. You have to like go in the menu and put who you want to control in the lead.
They otherwise just kind of do automated stuff. And follow you around and help out. Yep.
But you can't get rid of Gran, that guy, or Gal, depending.
The Tims are too powerful.
Or Jita.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, just like, that's fine. I understand it. But like, I wish I could have a whole team full of weirdos instead of 3 weirdos and then the protagonist.
3 weirdos and the most protagonist that is ever protagonisted.
Yeah. Well, that's a minor thing. And then also like, since
some cool armor at least.
Make him look like a certain other character from
make him look like a certain other protagonist from a certain tactical game that I may or may not be in my top 5 games of all time.
Oh my god! Where is my remake? Damn it!
Siggy in the chat says there is no character in Rising I actually dislike except for Gran. Now, I recommend that you try him with the Ramza armor, because let me tell you that
Yeah, the blue hair and the armored look of the whatever it's called, like Eternal
Pretty-
Ender or something like that.
It's the Guider of the Eternal or something.
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, it ends up making you look a lot more like Ramza Bayol from Final Fantasy Tactics. So
and that carries a lot of weight for me.
That's the whole reason you picked up.
It is.
I
literally
straight up, you're like, I'm just playing him to play Ramza.
I could have bought the character pass, and I bought the deluxe character pass because it got me that costume and some other stuff. But
hell yeah.
I was like, all right.
The visual aesthetics, they are strong. They are a big motivator for you, as we know.
We've established earlier, yeah.
It's great.
I don't like how Gran looks. Gran as blue-haired Ramza? Hell yeah. Let me get in there.
Yeah. I always forget the man's name, but he is the art guy for this and Tactics, and he, like, Cygames is like his day job now. He's like the director of their art department.
Yeah, he does all the key art for like the FF14 expansions as well, and I'm drawing a blank on his name as well.
I wish FF14 looked like the key art. Which
Yeah,
is what I think about most things.
It's close, but yeah.
Even like the little games Cygames put out has like the main art by that guy. It's so cool.
Akihiko Yoshida.
Yoshida, yes.
Did he also do the Brave Exvius stuff?
He might have.
Sorry, the what?
Brave, it was like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius or something.
Oh, yeah.
He did design the main characters in. He did design Bravely Default on a thing. Some of the main characters for that.
Because that was one thing that I noticed. Like, I would get press releases for those, and they would have like the little PNG images, and it would like they'd have like the licensed tie-ins, and it would be like Lara Croft, but she looked like she was from Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'm like, bro, I'm like saving every one of these pieces of art because I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, you should actually like try that game out. Brave Exvius, the War of the Lions, I think is what it's called. It's definitely a mobile gacha game, but like it's got a solid like.
It's FF Tactics. If FF Tactics was extremely, short battles and gacha heavy. It's
for
me. It just made me sad that I still don't have the freaking FFT remake out yet. Square, get on it.
Yeah. But no, it's got that art style, and it's got a surprisingly decent story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
or even FFT4. That would be nice.
Yeah.
How about that?
That would be nice. Yeah.
I guess like one other thing I think I've really enjoyed about it is it has that thing that mobile games do where like every single piece of progression is tied into every single other piece of progression, but it's like done in a really like nice, streamlined, simple way here that isn't tied with like making you grind yourself to death or spend money.
Not grind heavy or systems bloat too much.
Yeah, so it's like your characters will level up and they will get mastery points. Mastery points are for your skill trees. Your pool of mastery points is for everyone. But you also get mastery points from doing side quests and from doing missions, which are kind of like your Monster Hunter style like excursions that you can do like multiplayer with and stuff. And you can then you can upgrade your weapons and forge new ones, and your weapons have their own little like list of extra skill bonus gimmicks. So it's just one of those things where it's like everything you do just sort of like coalesces into making your character stronger. And it's like not grindy at all, unless you're trying to like level up all of the characters.
Unless you're trying to like jump, can you jump the power curve and stuff like you can in like a lot of RPGs?
So
that might not even be something you could talk about right now, but that's fine.
Yeah,
it might still be too early.
That's probably a bit too much.
Okay. Always love it.
Yeah. It seems like there's some kind of end game thing or post game stuff going on that I haven't seen yet, but there's like signs pointing in that direction.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have any questions about that or Granblue in general. I'm not really sure who else to take this, but
yeah, I don't
pretty good time with it.
I don't want to ask anything until everything's up for grabs. So I'm good.
And I think you covered at least most of it. Like, do you have a rough ballpark on how many different characters are available? Like, obviously, party size is limited, but how many characters are in it? Can you tinker around with at a glance, even if it's just a ballpark?
I would say like around 20 something, just eyeballing it. Like, it was a pretty significant list. It's like you get like 3 or 4 people per elemental type, I think.
Okay. And standard,
something close to that.
4 in light and dark kind of thing.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure they're like all matching what they are in the mobile game. Speaking of, I also, just to like kind of try to brush up and everything, I started playing the mobile game, and it is significantly easier to actually access now than it was several years ago.
They made it so the whole typical gacha stamina gating thing doesn't apply to main story, so you can just chip away at it, I think.
Yeah, and also like you can just make a account if you have a Google account now. It used to be you had to like sideload the game, and then you had to like kind of...
Why do I remember this? I know exactly where you're going with this.
You had to register their own thing, and it's like, okay, it's in Japanese, but it's not auto-translating because it's, 5+ years ago. Now it's like I downloaded BlueStacks and got the APK installed, and it was just like, log in as me in Google, and it was like, come in. And it's fully in English. The localization is really good. And it's all Yoshida art. Nobuo Uematsu did the soundtrack. Like, it's
good music, real good music.
Yeah. I think one of the things that put Granblue kind of on the path that it went on is just like it has absurd production values for a early like browser-based gacha game.
Yeah. I was reading something.
The visual
about
style pulled ahead.
It started in like
sure.
what, like 2014? Like it's 10 years old now at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah. So one of the things that the people who were in charge of the series, and I literally just read this like during the show while you were talking about it, and I was trying to look up like the names of things and all that sort of stuff. But they said that they wanted you to click into the game and forget that you were playing a mobile game, and it seems like they kind of succeeded.
Yeah, kind of like it's very visual novel heavy.
At least like presentation and quality wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Side games, I think I've played a few of their games now. I was huge into Dragalia Lost, but they put a lot of effort into like fleshing out their characters and like spending time with them. Like every character you get has their own like little side story. That's like pretty much all visual novel. It's just like, here's what this character's all about. And it's like,
here's how they interact with this character. Here's their background. Their, their highs, their lows, their falls, their successes.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, I pulled this character from doing my whatever random free currency pool. So they're not going to be a factor in the main story, but I can still go in and like see what they're about. And it's like a good, 30 minutes to an hour chunk of like story that everyone gets.
Nice.
They kind of play with that in this game too. Each character has their own little, they call them fate episodes.
They do that in their mobile as well, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it just seems like it's really thoughtful about how it kind of adapts the systems you'd expect to see in like a mobile game. They kind of make them work in here. Which I feel like I remember being pretty prominent in the first version of Rising. I don't know if, or Versus, excuse me. I don't know if it's that way in the new one, but there was like a mode where you would get like, you would like do pulls for like weapons, and you'd push your duplicate weapons into each other and level them up. And all
I don't know about that because I haven't done those, but there are like,
I think it's been streamlined, but you do
pulls.
get, yeah. You get weapon pulls, but otherwise, like, a lot of those are just things you can progress. Like, as you play the character, they level up, hit milestones, you get those things, or you can, spend the in-game currency or get them in draws ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like, half the time it's just like, I could get this thing, or I could just play Zoe some more and get to the color I want that way.
Yeah, and that's been a cool thing where it's just like, okay, like this has, and we talked about this when we did the review for the game on the show, which is just like, this is based on a gacha game, and it actually has like way better monetization than Street Fighter. like
oh, yeah.
orders of magnitude better, where it's like you can literally only buy like 3 things in the game with actual money, and one of them is
since then they just put in a battle pass, which is okay. It's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst.
If you get to the end, you can get a unique costume for Narmaya where she's wearing like a revealing top or something like that. But like
it's not even just that. It's like the design is, thematic and everything, and it does look cool even if it is, revealing. So
yeah, she's got like a 45.
She's got huge tracts of land.
45 out of 60. Still need to do my dailies, says Sigilium. Yeah. It's and I don't remember how far I am along it, but I had to take a break from Rising to play some other things, but I looked through that and was like, oh, there are like some things on this that look kind of interesting, but there may be a time when when the ultimate costume for the battle pass is for a character that I care about, and then maybe
that's the major thing. I have nothing on there that I'm interested in. The Narmaya skin looks cool, but I don't play Narmaya. But
now, if they do that one like outfit for Zeta, if they do that one where like she's got the red and like black jacket or something like that they showed in some of the art that was circling around, the
lately, more casual style one,
that Hungry Clicker did. I might have to jump in. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows? But
it's a funny bit of irony that you have things like Granblue, or you have like certain games in like the Apple Arcade where it's like, here's this gacha game with all the transactions stripped out, and you can see like, man, this whole like drawing pieces of things and putting them together to make them stronger and stuff, when it's not like stretched out so thin to make it excruciating and pressure you into spending money. It's like, oh, I see what the appeal of these kind of mechanic structures are. It's like, oh, it's fun to pull your random things and smash them together and make them powerful when they're not like, this is the only way you can succeed, and you have to pay for
RPG progression systems. They're decent systems. It's just a case of, and now we're going to paywall them, and now we're going to exploit the hell out of them and randomize it. So, you have to pull, so you encourage to spend money that you don't need on something to get something you may not want in pursuit of something you do, which you can't just buy.
Yeah, it's
so on and so forth. It's insidious. The entire practice is terrible. And as a result, gacha pulls don't improve a game is the problem. Even games that don't have the microtransactions, I said this to Cam in Game of the Year, it's like, it's not improved by it. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, not improved by the fact that I couldn't get every character. Like, what the hell, right? Like,
yeah. But anyways, we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah,
for sure.
Next week for sure, we'll have a lot more to say about
Hopefully I'll be able to get into it
Relink
at some point, but
Nice. And then, Kris, you said you wanted to end with yours?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I can talk about it for a lot because there's a topic near and dear to my heart.
Nice.
So
I don't know how long everybody wants to be here.
I won't go for too long because I'm still too early days in it. It's a big game. But
okay.
Yeah.
So I am going to talk about something I've been playing. We've been talking about fighting games. I'm going to play some fighting games after this. I've also been playing a fighting game. I've been playing Under Night In-Birth 2, Celes.
Tekken 8.
I know, it's not Tekken 8. It's not Tekken 8. I did not get a key for Tekken 8. I got a key for this. And it's been fascinating because I know that Uni fans are a hungry type, and they are very passionate. And so it was cool to get to jump in, and I have not explored everything yet. There have been some issues with like servers and responsiveness. I know there was actually some weird, there was like two, I don't know if it was Tekken or something else, but there were two fighting games that were having like weird issues where people were not able to like actually match up online. I think it might actually have been Tekken.
Tekken was like crashing and stuff for a little bit there. Yeah.
And this was too. UNI2 was too. But those issues, I believe, are starting to be resolved. We will see. And I will definitely be covering it from more of that angle next time. I've spent so much time in the lab and playing around with different characters and doing versus modes and like all sorts of stuff like that. And I still need to get into the online and the story and stuff like that. But because this game is so deep and so different, which is, I think, one of the things about it that is the most interesting is I've seen comparisons of Uni being like, oh, this is the Street Fighter of anime games, which is also something that people said about Granblue, which after playing more of UNI2, I'm like, no, that's definitely Granblue. Like there's
because it depends what they mean by that, because without context you don't get it. And it's like, we see Street Fighter as the more like approachable with a high skill ceiling kind of thing, but it is still like, it is boots on the ground entry level fighting game, right? Like that's what you go to. The Undernight stuff is not that. That is like, it's if the anime equivalent is what is your entry level kind of thing? Yeah, Granblue, but even Guilty Gear is that. Undernight goes hard. That is in deep. Yes. That is you going into the weeds for your fighting game.
I don't know anything about Undernight, but it always just like I see it and I think, oh, this is like Goth Blaze Blue.
It's Goth Blaze. Yes, it is like Goth Blaze Blue, but also if it had just some absolutely out of control nonsense, and then also had like a lot of systems that interact with each other. So if you like complex systems that there's a lot that you can do with, this might be the game for you. So let me.
It's nutty what I've heard about this game. So
just from the jump, I'm just going to give you. If you're not a fighting game fan, this probably isn't going to make that much sense to you. And I apologize because this is going to get. I'm going to get a little detailed just to show some of the stuff that this game has going for it. So most moves and normals are jump cancelable, and all normals basically are jump cancelable. Reverse beat exists for like every character. So reverse beat, just in case you don't know, a lot of fighting games, you'll hit like a fast light move, and then you can cancel that into like a medium move, and you can cancel that into a heavy move. Sometimes you can also do that crouching. So you can do like standing light attack, crouching light attack, standing medium attack, crouching medium attack, and then like standing heavy attack or something like that into like a special, like a fireball or something. And then that's
like the core loop of MVC3 kind of thing.
Yeah. That's like your standard
light, medium, heavy, special.
If they block it, if you hit with it, it does like a decent amount of damage. If they block it, it gives you like a way to end your pressure safely. And then it's their turn to do something. In this game, you can hit light into medium into heavy. You can hit heavy into medium into light. You can hit light into heavy into medium. You can hit any permutation of those moves into each other. The only thing you cannot do is use the same button twice. So the way that you block moves and the way that your advantage is counted is like Siggy Liam in the chat says, I think I feel physically ill. Yeah. So there is, by the way, just thank you for bringing top tier comments to the show, week in and week out. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so there is a character in Dragon Ball FighterZ called Adult Gohan. And once you level up to a certain point, once he does his super a certain number of times, he gets reverse beat. And then he's basically impossible to block. Like the fact that he can just he can hit with a heavy and then he can go to a light that's like 3 frames and it hits low. And everything links. it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, and it's so difficult to defend against. So the fact that every character can do that in all the ways is like it's crazy. Then you've also got something called force function, where you hit the medium button and the heavy button. So this is a 4-button game. So there is, like BlazBlue, you have light, medium, heavy, or ABC, which is the same way that it's counted in the same way that notation is handled in BlazBlue. And then D is your last button, which this is your kind of like block or movement button. So if you hold forward and D, it does like a KOF style short hop, where you can do like forward and
hop
D and then hit a heavy attack or something like that. And you can't do any follow-ups after it, but that is a way to like get in and try to catch somebody while they're sleeping and stuff. It's also when you hold like back and that does like kind of your barrier block, like BlazBlue, or your faultless defense and Guilty Gear, these sorts of things. It's like your push block system. You don't take any chip damage when you're using that. And it's really, really interesting. It still loses to grabs and all that sort of stuff. There's also a solo guard cancel. There's also there's like a critical health super that you can do when you're at 30% health, like Persona. And also like your super Skybound arts in Granblue Rising.
And like your Rage arts in Tekken. It just seems to be the way they handle a lot of supers these days. It's like, a Hail Mary, come back.
Yeah, you can some characters can combo into or out of throws.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Which is really disgusting. The character that I play Carmine. So Carmine is a character who actually inspired me to check out Belial in Granblue, because he's got a projectile that spins around in place. So you can grab somebody or knock them down, then throw his projectile, and it will cover their wake up, so you can do a high-low. And that's just something he can just do. And then if you get hit, he gets to do it again. But one of the things he does is he spends his health to do his special moves. And every time he does one of these attacks, it leaves a puddle of blood on the ground. His special move, his force function is I can hold forward and medium plus heavy, or back and medium plus heavy. And he'll either shift all of his blood puddles forward or backwards. And then he can do several of his special moves have follow-ups that activate blood crystals that shoot up out of these blood puddles. And since I can move those around, and since I can do those from like my different projectiles and stuff, like there's lots of moves where they leave blood puddles that I can then activate or move around or do all kinds of nonsense. And it's wild. Like it's wild.
I can just see Zato 1 T-posing in the corner.
Yeah. So, you've got that. You've also got an invincible roll called Creeping Edge, which is down forward and your D button. And that interacts with the grid gauge, which is something else that we're going to talk about. This is something that makes this game really unique. As time goes on and you're being aggressive, there's a meter at the front, and it is basically a tug of war. And this tug of war gives you certain benefits, but also gives you another gauge that you can draw from. So there's this gauge, and it's filled up with these number of cubes. And if you're on first player side, they'll fill up blue, and if you're on second player side, they'll fill up pink, and they'll go towards the middle. There's also a circle in the middle, and when it rotates around and completes one full rotation, whoever has more grid on the gauge enters Vorpal state, which means all of their stuff does more damage, etc. So that circle will keep going around and keep counting who is in first place in this tug of war of being aggressive, moving forward, jumping, doing attacks. This all gives you grid, but blocking also gives you grid. So it's not like just being aggressive. Like if you defend successfully and you're really good at blocking, you could actually earn more grid than the person who's like attacking you.
So it gives you a way of getting your turn back, basically.
Yeah, and not only that, but you can do something called change shift, which functions like Roman cancels in Guilty Gear, where it will, if you do a change shift, it will immediately remove all the recovery on your move or make anything safe. It's really interesting. It's also a way to combo stuff that's normally not cancelable, But when you do that, it takes all of your grid meter and dumps it into your meter so that you'll have it to spend.
So you cash out and then use your like EX gauge kind of thing. Interesting.
So you have special moves and you have different variants of special moves. So like in Street Fighter, like you can do a light version of Ryu's Fireball, and that's like a slow one. Then the medium one is a fast one, and the heavy one is like 2 hits or something or whatever. In this one, you have 2 versions of meterless specials, and then one that consumes half of your entire meter. So it gets together in sections of 100. So if you have a full complete bar of meter, you have 200 meter, and then each half is 100. So skills take 100 to do in their like heightened versions. And those all have like unique properties or like all kinds of nonsense with them. But since you can use chain shift to dump your grid into meter, you'll be able to spend those way more often and play way more aggressively and do your supers, because you can only do supers when you have 100 or 200 meter and stuff like that. So
the downside is that you've spent your grid, which means the enemy can potentially capitalize on it and get back with it.
Yeah, which means that they're going to get Vorpal the next time. They're going to get Vorpal state the next time that the grid makes a revolution, which means you're risking them doing more damage. So you can play that game, but like, you know, I've heard from other people who like play these games at a high level that like, don't worry about grid from the start. Like, just don't worry about that. Worry about the other stuff because there's enough for you to worry about, and grid will be there later when you get
work
to
on the fundamentals. Yeah, makes sense.
And then there's also Veil Off, which is something that you can do by spending all of your meter, and it boosts your damage by 20%, and it stacks with Vorpal state from grid. So you can have like 30% bonus damage running if you do this. Like, it's a limited time kind of a thing that people can access that gives them like access to more damage. It's also invincible on startup, so it's a way to get out of pressure even for people who don't have like DPs and stuff like that. But like the fact that this game like is like, hey, what if we took short hop from KOF and we also took like burst and like you know, that sort of a thing. And we also took invincible dodge rolls from like Granblue, and we also took all of these other things. Yeah.
And you also get personas just for the hell of it. Like, why not?
Yeah. It's well, yeah, and there's
if you get all 7 Dragon Balls in the match, you can make a wish and so on.
Yeah, you can make a wish.
This sounds absurd.
Yeah,
how is there enough of a life bar to like house all of this shit?
It's interesting.
The time to kill must either be really high or really fucking low.
It's actually the crazy thing is the time to kill is not that high. There is like, and this is one of the reasons why I do think that SF comparison has some merit, because there are ridiculous systems in place, but everybody has them. And even though there are some characters, like Hilda is a character who does like full screen projectiles and they're really fast. Like there's characters that have like really crazy nonsense, but it's not like DNF Duel where like the crazy nonsense is going to kill you. Like you get hit once and then you just have to watch this combo forever and then you're dead.
Touch of death. Yeah.
It's not like that. Like the combos can be long, but like, it's not like super crazy. You know, it's not like you're not going to get hit once and die. Like you're going to get hit like a couple of times and then it's going to lead you into a bad situation and then you're going to get stuck in the corner or whatever. And you know, whatever. But it does have, one of the things that I like about it is that the character roster, I think maybe even more than Granblue, which is like the other major game that I'm playing now. These characters all have crazy personality. Like there's one character called Byakuya who is like this. He's wearing like one thing about Under Night is that all these people look like they just got out of school, but they also need to go kill some demons, you know? And it's like, it's very
standard
Persona.
Anime. Yeah.
It's very Persona where they're like Byakuya is like wearing a like school uniform, but then he also has like a bunch of these claws that are like hovering around him that he uses to stab people and wrap people up. He's almost like armored Spider-Man, where he's just like got those things, except they're just hovering in the air and he has 8 of them. And he can also put webs
He's got
up.
funnels.
Yeah. High School DxD, is that you? I don't know what that means.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of that. There's a ridiculous character called Merkava, which is like this giant, like long, and when I say long-limbed, I mean like 30-foot limbs.
Dalsim, yeah.
Monster. And one of the moves that they can do is they just flail wildly and roar. Like they're a monster. They're clearly a monster. They have this thing where they can throw down little worms on the ground that turn into like little monsters that will chase after somebody and lock them down. Kind of like Arakune from BlazBlue. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this game. And I'm going to get more into it, and talk more about that next week with kind of a focus on the story and the online experience and stuff. But what I've played of it right now is like, it is funny that it's coming out at around the same time as Tekken, which is another game that is technically intimidating to me. But
they're very, very different styles.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
I did also play some of the Tekken demo
today,
but Under Night is like, this is one of those games where it kind of feels like a lot of modern fighting games that have been coming out have been simplifying things to appeal to a broad audience. And the fact that Strive came out and abandoned a lot of the stuff that made the Exert and Rev fans really into it, like a lot of that depth and stuff for streamlining it more, which is something I appreciate about Strive, but it is something that happened. I find that stuff super interesting. And to see Under Night come out, and I have not played any of the previous Under Night games, but to have this game come out and be like, okay, there's like, if you go into the intermediate level tutorials, there's like 180 tutorials. Like it's like,
okay.
The first section of tutorials has like, I don't know, 40 or 50 or something like that. I can't imagine what's in the advanced ones, but the fact that there is so much, like if you are looking to get into a 2D fighting game that has just like tons of depth, and tons
if you're looking to put 3,000 hours into something to achieve an intermediate state, then
I mean, I don't even know about that. Like one thing that I've definitely noticed is like I went in and started playing with Kaguya. I forget who it was. She looks like she's from a Wild West saloon and she has 2 shotguns. And so she's got this thing where like she shoots her guns and she shoots out these little blue projectiles that bounce around the screen like it's a freaking DVD menu, like screensaver or something like that. And then if she hits them or if they hit something else, they like explode or whatever. But she can also like do like a leaping thing in the air. So like I shoot those out, they're bouncing around, my enemy's watching out for them, and then I jump in the air and then I shoot them, and then I like bounce over to the other side of them and shoot them from behind, and like she's just all over the place. It's crazy. But I was able to do like a pretty impressive and fairly damaging combo with her straight off the jump, just from like mashing buttons and like kind of figuring things out, because I've played characters like this before. So
fighting
like
game fundamentals shine through. It's like, yep, I knew the basic.
Even in some of the weird stuff where like I was doing Carmine combos, I was doing like 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hit combos without even actually looking at what he does. Like I didn't even realize that his moves had negative edge aspects to them until after. Like, and I was like doing decently well against like medium difficulty CPUs. Like I was never losing. So like I'm gonna be bumping that up, and then as I continue to learn and then going online and things like that, but I find it fascinating that something that is this deep is still like, you can still definitely jump in and have a good time.
So that's probably the Street Fighter comparison then, because again, like we see Street Fighter as relatively, on the ground entry level thing. It's solid, it's good. And then you dive and you dive and you dive. And then you just get completely blockaded by like the Justin Wongs and such.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, cool.
Yeah.
So
it's
I guess
fun. It's
just like that. It is more approachable than it sounds, but when you try and sit down and break the systems, I'm just having an aneurysm over here.
Yeah,
basically.
it's a lot. And I went into that level of detail because I wanted people to understand that like there's a lot of fighting
stuff
games
cooking here.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighting games out right now, and I feel like each one has their own kind of claim to fame. And I didn't know what Undernights was before I started playing it. And then I was like, oh, I see. This is for the system sickos. This is for
the people who played a lot of earlier Guilty Gear, earlier BlazBlue, just the anime game crowd, and just like, what if we took the systems further and further, and we want to play with that, and just that's where they ended up. And it's got its own little niche, but I know that niche is very devoted. So yeah, shout outs to you guys.
Yeah, it's funny because I got into it and then it was just like, oh, Frosty Faustus is happening. Like, oh, there's like tournaments that are going on. Oh, I can watch this. Oh, hey, there's somebody playing my character. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like other, like many other games, like looking at the roster, there's like a bunch of characters that are really interesting. And one thing, we were talking about customization earlier. You have custom character colors. Like you do in many games, it'll be like color 1, color 2, like through color, like whatever. Some of these characters have up to like 40 colors, but then there's also a customization section where you can go in and you can customize their hair color, their like
individual parts, such rather than just stuff.
There's packages, okay. Yeah. So you can pick like little palettes like to start from, and then you can go in and fine tune those and save those as you have like 5 custom character slots or 5.
I want this in Granblue so much. You have no idea.
Yeah. And so like I literally went in and was like, okay, I want to make my Carmine, but instead of having red hair and red eyes and red like blood on his hands, I want to have green stuff because I like Hazuma and Terrami from BlazBlue. So I just did it. And then, I haven't figured out how to make his like power, his like blood puddles and blood crystals green, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure that one out.
But you progress.
You can also change that sort of stuff. Like I fought somebody who had like a purple one, who had like his stuff, but it was just like purple crystals. And I was like, that looks really cool. So the idea that you can get in there and, really be like, okay, I like her guns. I really want them to be like more black or brown or something like that. Or like, I really like it when my characters have blue hair. You can just do that in the game.
I'm going to tweak this one, baseline character and make him more like my OC from something else. And here we go.
Yeah, it's great. And it'll save that as that custom color slot. So when you go in, instead of going to the right to count up numbers, you go to the left, and it has custom colors 1 through 5, and those are specific to that character. So you can do up to 5 custom color palettes for every character in the game and still have them saved whenever you want to use them, which I think is super, super cool. I really dig that.
That's a very, very cool system. I'm glad that's there.
So yeah, anyways, I'll be back with more on that, but that was Undernight in Birth 2, Celes.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, just type in Undernight 2.
Type in UNI2, UNI2 is what a lot of people call it. So
I've been trying to figure out if like where you can start with the series, if it even has like a story to it, or
I'm sure there's something there. Like,
I don't know, but
report back to us when you dabble in the story, I guess, and we'll find out.
I will.
We'll go on this adventure together.
But yeah, I'm digging it. It's fun. Fighting game fans are eating
the Melty Blood people, right? This is French bread?
I want to say yes, but I am not 100% sure.
Okay.
That sounds familiar. I'm going to look it up right now.
Melting Blood was the not Fate, Tsukihime, that one, adjacent game.
Yeah, it's like
Fate universe. So
Type Moon overall crossover, I think.
Something like that. I didn't play it, but I heard reasonably good things. I'm not fully into
French bread Arc System Works. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think this is their thing. Like, when they're not doing basically Melty Blood is almost like their persona. It's the take an established franchise thing and take it for a spin kind of game.
Yeah.
Or they Granblue even.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a fighting game fan. There's something for damn near everyone.
It really is. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Now just give me a new Soul Calibur and we're set. We're done. Or just put rollback in Smash Bros. Like, what the fuck are we doing here, right?
And speaking of rollback, the Dragon Ball Fighters World Tour happened at the Battle Hour, and they said that rollback is coming very, very soon. And then somebody clarified those statements and said, we can't say the date, but it is probably much sooner than you think that it is. And I'm like, yeah, baby, gimme. I'm ready. Which also includes and they did say this thing, people forgot. Your boy Brian Barnett did not forget that rollback on console is tied to the next gen versions of the game. And they did say that. They announced that, and they're like, we're going to have information on the PS5 and Xbox Series versions of these games very, very soon.
Oh, wow. I totally missed that was a thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, they're not, if you have the PS4 or the Xbox One version of Dragon Ball FighterZ, it is not getting rollback. The new versions of the games are getting rollback. And the Steam version, if you have it, that is going to get rollback.
Naturally.
But there's
Thankfully,
also
I have it on Steam. But
there's also a
too many people aren't left in the dark.
Yeah, there's also a totally legal crack out there that a lot of competitive players are using right now that just brings the beta rollback back, which I had some issues with it. And obviously the new version I think is going to just probably empirically be better. But if you still want to play on pretty good rollback, then that is out there for you. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are eating. Fighting game fans are eating very, very well. It's crazy that basically every new version of all the fighting games that have come out have been really awesome. I can't speak to Mortal Kombat, but basically everything else by all accounts is fantastic. So
yeah, I didn't hear bad things about Mortal Kombat. I didn't hear the greatest. It's could have been better. Then there's signs that it was kind of rush development, not the game they wanted to make kind of thing. But
yeah,
who knows? We'll find out in time, I'm sure. It's pretty much every niche is being served to an extent.
Yeah.
So,
Kris, take us home.
Like a Dragon, infinite wealth. Good night, everybody.
Nice.
No, in more. Yeah, so the latest of the previously known as Yakuza series, Like a Dragon, has dropped as of a few days ago. I dropped a dozen hours onto it on day one, and nothing since because reasons. I'm itching to get back to it. It is almost immediately just fantastic. It picks up the plots of 7 and Ichiban's story and the conclusion of that, runs with it, develops on the characters, builds on the drama and intrigue and such, progresses time as well, because these games are always set in relatively contemporary time. So it's the pandemic is a thing that happened in that world because it is still the real world. So they have aspects of that mentioned and addressed, little things like that as they develop the characters and where they're at, what's happened, the highs and then the lows, and then the inciting incident, which leads our afro-haired crazy person to out of Japan and off to Hawaii, which holy shit, that's a system shock. That game, that entire franchise, right? It's Japanese to the core. You're always in Japan. You're in usually Kamurocho in Tokyo, but it varies and takes you all over the country in various places. The furthest out you got was Okinawa, and that's about it. Here it's we're taking this to Hawaii, and while there is there's a decent Japanese population, lots of tourists and such over there, there is ties to it, and that does come up in the story and mentioned and such. But it's the first time I've ever seen, basically just a white or a black person just walking around more than once and isn't for a bit. That's the hilarity, right? It's not Gary Buster Holmes or the guy getting yelled at in English. It's it's just people, and you hear, the very American quotes and commentary in and around the Japanese. You have Ichiban really struggling with English just to convey little things and needing translators and such. And it's great kind of, both the fish out of water aspect, but also just seeing this franchise and its details and scenery and everything in a completely new light. And while still being very true to itself. And it's a great time so far. Again, characters and stories are amazing. Ichiban is seriously just like the best protagonist in anything ever. They've made him so lovable. It's unbelievable. Lots of mysteries and intense crime drama and warring factions and politics and such, all sprinkled in throughout. And then at the heart of it is still previously, a beat 'em up and now a turn-based JRPG. But there's been a lot of improvements. Like they've done a lot to address many of the teething pains that 7 came with. Just there's a few more options for just, it'll show you when you're going to pick up a weapon and such that's lying on the ground. It'll show you, how things are going to go in terms of knockback, give you a little more control over your movement and setting up AoEs, which was kind of random in the original. So that's good. It's just solid improvements and refinements on the original formula. And then the mini games, the side content, there's so much of it. There is an entire mode which is just Crazy Taxi, except you're an Uber Eats guy on a push bike. It's fucking unbelievable. Like that whole quest line and intro was it was amazing. Incredible. And then when all the time for zany shenanigans and RPG battles and crazy Ichiban imagination is done, it sits you down and says, right, get ready for some cutscenes because you have some of the most in-depth, engaging crime drama shit that has ever been penned in video games. And I am so in. I am so aboard. It's
so funny. Like this is almost, and I mean,
it's ridiculous. It shouldn't line up as it does, but it does.
I mean, no disrespect to these people, but it almost sounds like what One Piece fans sound like, having not experienced any of this, where it's just like One Piece is the greatest story ever told, and I'm just like, there's literally no way that's true. That's impossible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Like, I've never read it and I'm never going to. So like, whatever.
I'm going to get you into Like a Dragon one of these days. That is my mission. I'm going to sit you down and you're going to play Yakuza 0 you're going to have a fucking great time.
So we've had talks, Kris. We've had talks because at this point, I don't remember exactly how long you've been on the show, but you've been on the show for long enough to...
Yeah, I'm pushing it. Like, I think my first appearance was like well over a year ago. So yeah. Been here.
So you've known me for a while. I'm curious, is this the number one thing that you're like, I gotta get him to do?
Yes, but I mean, there's a few things.
There's a couple.
This is almost okay. I'll be honest. The whole Yakuza fan thing is almost like a bit for me. It's not that I don't adore them,
sure,
but it's like I am always at all times. It's like I should, I'm looking to get into something or whatever. I'm just like go play Yakuza.
Yes, sure.
And it's
a fun thing to lean into for sure. But
but
I also know that I also
say that because
I feel like everybody I know is like, you need to play Yakuza, and I'm like, but I don't care. Like I don't care about crime.
I know. It doesn't seem like that, but it's so hard to exactly put to words until you just experience what it's got going, both in terms of the stories and the characters and the narrative and just the zany shit and the open world and what it does. You really just have to sit down, sink into it, go for a bit, and it clicks. It's really hard to just properly sell it from an outside perspective, but once you're in, like, I've never met somebody who, bounced off completely, like, after a certain point. It's just, it did not happen. So these games are special.
I think I need to sit somebody down and be like, all right, how long until it's gonna, like, at what point in the story will I know if it hasn't grabbed me by now, it's not?
Oh, I can tell you. I can 100% tell you. I've already told you on this show in previous episodes, but to reiterate, pick up Yakuza 0, play through the entirety of Chapter 1, mostly focusing on mainline and such. If you're still not completely convinced, go as far as Chapter 3, where the character swap happens and things go on. If you're still not convinced after the introduction of that character, I don't know. I will get back to you on that.
Yeah, but, this is the classic platformers question of like how long till it gets good.
It's not like 40 hours until it gets good, right? Okay. Like if you're going
I will say no
clip,
on that.
Yeah, of course not. Like
I'm not playing Final Fantasy 13 in this bitch.
It's not It's not even going to be a dozen hours unless you really go out of your way to like fuck around. At that point, you're probably already in anyway, right?
Yeah.
5 to 10 kind of ballpark.
All right.
And like if you can get through, the intro parts of Chapter 3 of Yakuza 0 and still say, yeah, I don't want to see where this goes anymore, I'm just really not feeling it, then fair enough, not your cup of tea. But
gotcha.
I don't think you will.
I
think you'll get to that point and be like, oh, God damn it, Kris, you were so right. And you were so right. And we're going to sit there and go, man, we fucking told you.
I would love that to be the case. We will see. I gotta wait for a lull.
This is the project.
Maybe I'll have one soon.
It's that's the one I lean into, as well as telling everybody to play Morrowind because it's the best game ever. So
that's the other one, because there's Morrowind, there's Planescape Torment, there's Disco Elysium, there's Yakuza.
Disco Elysium is up there. There's Yakuza.
And it's like, I haven't played any of
I've got a whole bunch that I can, always throw at people, like play 13 Sentinels, Outer Wilds, all the other good stuff. But like,
Outer Wilds, I did buy that, so I got that installed on my PC, so I can go back and try that one again. But anyways,
it's great.
Back to Like a Dragon. If you have anything else to say about it.
I'm still in early days, so I don't want to say too much, but I've covered like the gist of it. It's cool. So far, just it is, at this point there is almost a formula, but they cram this stuff with heart, soul content, high production values, and there's nothing else quite to that level. And I adore it, and I cannot wait to get back in there. Ichiban is number one, literally. Yeah. And yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Also, can you speak to any like specific changes that are notable to the job system?
I cannot yet, because I am still yet to unlock that. That doesn't come in immediately, which is I asked Timo that same question, and he said like chapter 5, and I'm in like chapter 3, so it's like fuck, all right. Okay. I will say just at a glance from the default jobs.
This has like a Final Fantasy 5 style like job system.
So it stopped being a beat 'em up from 7 onwards. It's a turn-based RPG now. 7 and 8 are straight up turn-based RPGs. They've mostly done the side games, like your Gaiden and your Judgment or whatever, to continue the beat 'em up tradition. Of course, there are aspects of that break that, but I'll get back into it later. But,
so if I'm more interested in that, can I jump into Infinite Wealth and start there? I know that might be...
Play 7, because similar deal, you'll get the feel for it, and it is very instrumental in like building up this story. The current story, the early days and build up and such, does have a lot of assumed,
which 7 is knowledge. Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is that still on Game Pass?
Yep.
Might be. Yeah.
Okay. If it is, then I have access to it. Which is cool.
That's the first one with Ichiban as a protagonist, and so that helps establish his, origin story, history, motivations, characters, and all that.
I feel like that might be an easier ask than going back to 0 for me personally. This might be a situation where it's just like I was making some sweet tea, or my wife asked me to make some sweet tea, which I make really good sweet tea. And I was like, all right, I'm in the middle of a Halo 5 match. Like, I need you to like take my controller if I'm going to go make this tea for you. And she's like, what do I have to do? And I'm like, just keep moving around so I don't get booted for inactivity. I don't care about my KD ratio. It's fine. And then she like walked around and she was like, how do you punch somebody? And I told her, and then she punched somebody and got a melee kill. And she was like, ooh. And then she like looked around. She's like, how do you pick things up? And I said, hold X. And she like had found the energy sword, and she killed a person, and then she got it again and killed like 5 people. And then she was like, is there a way that you and I could play this, but like not against other people, but against the PC like controlled characters? And I was like, is there? And then we played through the entirety of Halo, but Halo 5 was the one that got her in. So like, that's kind of how I'm thinking about. And then she went back and played Halo 5 by herself. She'd never played a game on like dual sticks before.
I think 7 could be a decent starting point.
7 is a decent starting point, just because it is, new arc, new kind of situation. And while there is much later in the game, there is a little bit of assumed knowledge and such, you can mostly pick up the context clues and such. And it still carries its own story forward very well. And it is a hell of a good story. So,
and even if it like pulls me in just to the idea of like what it is, and then I could be like, okay, well now maybe I'll try 0, and like if the beat 'em up thing doesn't really vibe with me, then maybe I'll just do 7 and like whatever. I won't pick up on story stuff. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage not going into Infinite Wealth as good as it is just yet, because it does continue Ichiban's story while 7 ends in a good roundabout place for its arc. There is a lot of like build up and such, which is definitely stronger for having played 7.
Cool.
So yeah,
Sounds
but
good.
you're not missing out by playing 7. Like it's great. So
cool. Nice.
I will say, in response to your earlier question, Lucas, about the job system, there are a couple of refinements that I noticed just from the base, like the default classes you get, and that being that in 7 you weren't really encouraged to swap classes a lot, because
Exactly.
that was a major problem, because like the stats increase for that class as they level up, so going to a different one you're really heavily weaker and such.
Mhm.
In this one, the stat increases as your rank up in the jobs are very low, like 2-3 stats, compared to your general level ups, which are universal, are much bigger. I haven't obviously got the chance to fiddle around with the classes and see how many abilities and such carry over, but that alone, I can see that and go, okay, you've heard the feedback and you're able to allow more experimentation, because it's more about the abilities they get rather than the constant stat progression. So it should be more approachable once I actually unlock the system, which is currently not. So yeah, stay tuned on that, but looking like an improvement in that regard. Yeah.
Nice.
I can't remember entirely. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like when I played Like a Dragon, it seemed like there wasn't any sort of like crossover between jobs.
There was extremely limited. Like there would always be 2 abilities like on your list of learned skills. There was 2 for every class that had like a slightly different color, and that meant that was universal. So if you've got those, that would go to anything. But other than that, not a hell of a lot. I think way down the tree, like it basically only comes up in like New Game Plus that you can get like actual stat boosts and such, which affect all of them. But there wasn't a huge amount of interplay there, which was a real letdown of the system. But they seem to have taken feedback to heart, and so I'm hoping there's a bit more there. So yeah, I'll get back to you on that one.
Awesome.
Nice.
Any other questions or extra stuff?
I mean, that's
I
it.
don't think so.
All right. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I want to get back into it. Highly recommended for anyone who didn't realize it was out. But if you're into Like a Dragon, you're playing it. A lot of people are playing it. It has like by far the highest concurrent players for the series and franchise and adjacent games on Steam at the moment, which still puts it at about 3% of Pal World. So get on that, guys. Fix that shit.
Nice. Good stuff.
I think that about wraps it up. We've done a decent podcast here. So
yeah, it's a
beefy
closing
stuff?
episode. Beefy episode. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Platformers. 302. Can you guys believe it? I've been doing this show.
Yeah, we keep on going.
I've been doing this show since 2016, if you can believe it.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But if you've got any thoughts or feedback or topics or ideas for discussion, we love talking to you guys. Either whether it's in the YouTube comments at youtube.com/@Ribnax, RIBNAX, or twitch.tv/Ribnax, where we've been talking to people during the show, which is how you'll get your comments on the show.
Audience participation.
Yeah, we love doing that. Or whether you want to hit us up on social media, you can find me at Twitter at Ribnax, RIBNAX, or on Blue Sky and Backlogged, where I track all the games that I'm playing and leave little reviews and stuff like that. If you want to check that out, I am at Brian Barnett. There you go. And that's I've got some interviews that are coming out this week. I met with Constanti from the Hellcard team. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about Hellcard from Book of Demons. It's a papercraft.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a papercraft dungeon crawling roguelite where you go back to back like Army of Two style with 2 or 3 people, and there's like a near cone and a far cone, and you manage like dungeon style papercraft enemies that are coming towards you with cards that you build like a deck. It's like Slay the Spire but multiplayer, with like other stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
So across the obelisk, yeah.
Yeah, so I sat down with one of the main developers and the studio co-founders over there to talk about that sort of stuff. So that is going to be going up, and we're going to be giving away keys with that as part of the IGN Plus subscription, which I write about all the time. So come over to IGN.com and check that stuff out.
Good times. I am Kris Cornelise, aka Delphia. You can find me as Delphia on pretty much every game I play. My website is versusthebacklog.com, vsthebacklog.com. One word. Still not a lot has gone up there recently, but other than that, you mostly find me here. How about you, Lucas?
Yeah, Lucas White. You can find me on socials at Hokutono Lucas. Most of my writing right now is at shacknews.com, which is where you'll be able to read more about Granblue Relink very soon.
Very keen.
Heck yeah. All right, guys. If you like the show, please leave us a review or tell somebody about it because we don't advertise, and that's the only way we have to grow. From everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there. Because until next time, we are out.
Peace.